My husband just got back from a 14-day strategy trip with his work wife. He thought I was the same woman he left. But after 8 years of marriage, one question was all it took to make it explode. As he took his first bite of a sandwich, I asked him, "Do you know what she just tested positive for?" The way his phone hit the table told me the real war had just begun. My name is Penelope Bennett. I am 33 years old, and my 8-year marriage just detonated. The sound of the suitcase wheels is what starts it. A harsh, plastic grinding on the concrete walkway of our suburban Portland home. It's a cold December afternoon. The sky a flat, bruised gray that promises freezing rain, and I'm watching from the kitchen window. My coffee has been cold for at least an hour. Forgotten in a mug clutched in my left hand, my right hand is braced against the quartz countertop, steadying me. He's finally home. Eric Hansen. He doesn't look like a man who just spent 14 days in a global strategy retreat. He looks rested. He's tan, a deep, golden hour tan you get from leisure, not from conference rooms. He's wearing a bright linen shirt under his jacket, absurdly light for the weather. As he fumbles with his keys at the front door, the wind hits him, and even through the double-paned glass, I can see the lightness in his eyes. He looks relieved, unburdened. A stark contrast to the man who left 2 weeks ago claiming the stress of the Amalfi strategy session was going to kill him. Eric is a creative director at Blue Harbor Collective, a small, ambitious marketing agency that thinks it's bigger than it is. His work wife, Tessa Moreno, is an account manager there. She's all sharp laughs, bright lipstick, and overly familiar Instagram stories where she's always tagging him, always leaning in just a little too close. The door opens. "Penny, I'm home." His voice echoes in the entryway. I don't move. I wait for him to find me. He drops his bags by the stairs, a large roller suitcase and a leather duffel, and walks into the kitchen, his arms opening for a hug. A wide, performative smile plastered on his face. "There you are. God, I missed you." I step into the embrace. It's a practiced motion. The dutiful wife welcoming the traveler. My arms go around his back, and I inhale. It's not his smell. It's sunscreen, expensive and floral, and beneath it, a sharp, unfamiliar perfume. It's not the musky, subtle scent Tessa usually wears. This is something new. I log it. I log everything. I pull back, manufacturing a small, tired smile of my own. "Welcome home. Eric, you look rested." "Rested, I'm dead." He laughs, but it doesn't reach his eyes. He moves past me to the refrigerator, pulling out a beer. It was insane. Meetings from sunrise to sunset, just nonstop networking. We were on from the second we landed. He keeps using that word. He means the strategic team. He means Tessa, but he avoids her name. A careful omission that is louder than a confession. He leaves his suitcase in the corner of the dining room, unopened, a silent bomb waiting to be diffused. He's trying so hard to be natural, to slip back into the domestic rhythm as if nothing has changed, as if he didn't just spend 2 weeks on the Amalfi Coast with her. I busy myself at the stove. I'm making him grilled cheese sandwiches, his favorite. It's the kind of simple, comforting food a wife makes for a husband who just got home. We sit at the kitchen island, the white marble cool beneath my forearms. I open my laptop, pretending to scroll through work emails from my job as a project manager. I am giving him the floor, letting the silence beg him to fill it. He does. He talks about the food, the terrible flight connections, the demanding client presentations. The details are all vague, rehearsed, looping back on themselves like a script he memorized on the plane. He's talking, but he isn't saying anything. I let him finish, sip my cold coffee, and then I start my soft attack. "How many were on the team again?" I ask, my eyes still on the screen. "Just you, Tessa, and Mark from finance." I watch his hands. They pause, just for a fraction of a second, on their way to the beer bottle. Yeah. Mark was there for the first few days. Then it was just the core team. You know, hammering out the creative. Sounds intense. How was the view from the meeting room? You said it was overlooking the water. Another pause. Smaller this time. He's getting better. Oh, It was fine. To be honest, Penny, we were staring at PowerPoint decks for 12 hours a day. Could have been in Seattle for all I knew. He sent me a picture from Seattle 3 days ago. A picture of a conference room I recognized from a post he made 6 months prior. I had already cross-referenced the metadata. He was in Positano. I let the conversation die. I let the only sound in the room be the scrape of his knife on the plate as he cuts his second sandwich. I let him get comfortable. I let him think he's safe. He's home with Penelope, his good, quiet wife of 8 years, the woman who manages timelines and budgets, the woman who's been patiently waiting to start fertility treatments. He thinks I'm the same person he left 14 days ago. He has no idea who I've become. He lifts the sandwich, takes a bite, chews, and swallows. I set my coffee mug down on the counter. The ceramic click is sharp in the silence. He looks up, mid-chew. Sensing the shift, I look directly into his eyes. My voice is level, quiet, and cold. I ask him, slowly, letting each word land. Do you know what she just tested positive for? It happens fast, but in my mind, it's in slow motion. His hand, holding the sandwich, freezes halfway to his mouth. His throat works, a hard, dry swallow. His eyes, so relaxed and tan-crinkled moments ago, darted wildly, first to my face, then to the side, then back. The color drains from his face, leaving the holiday tan looking like a sick, yellow mask. His phone, which was resting on the counter by his plate, clatters as his elbow bumps it. He tries to laugh. It comes out as a strangled cough. What, Penny? What are you talking about? His voice is an octave too high. It's shaking. I lean forward just slightly. I don't raise my voice. I drop it, making him strain to hear me. I'm talking about something that doesn't just go away. Eric, something intimate. I let the word hang in the air between us. I know about the clinic she visited right before you left. I lie. My voice smooth as ice, the one that tests for things that get passed along, things that last. He isn't breathing. He's just staring at me, his mouth slightly open, the half-eaten sandwich still gripped in his paralyzed hand. The man who walked in smelling sunshine and secrets is gone. In his place is a cornered, terrified stranger. And I know, at this moment, the war has officially begun. 14 days ago, I wasn't this person. 14 days ago, I was just Penny. It started with a kiss. Eric was dragging his suitcase to the door, the same one he has now. He said it was a last-minute global retreat in Milan. A small group, just the essentials, including Tessa. He gave me a quick, dry kiss that barely grazed my mouth. I'll FaceTime you every night. I promise, he said, his eyes already somewhere else, probably checking his rideshare app. This thing is a beast, but it'll be huge for us. He left on a Tuesday night. I went to bed alone in our king-sized bed, the empty space feeling vast and cold. I told myself it was just work. The first crack appeared less than 24 hours later. I was in a meeting, my phone on the table, when it buzzed with a credit card notification. A charge for €212 at a place called Le Cyrenus Bar. I didn't recognize the name. A quick search showed it was a high-end cliffside champagne bar in Positano, Italy, not Milan. My heart made a painful, stuttering leap. At that exact moment, a text from Eric came through. Just finishing up. Slides all night. My brain is fried. Talk tomorrow. Love you. I stared at the two messages, one from my bank, one from my husband. They told two completely different stories. Positano, Milan, slides, champagne. I called the main line for Blue Harbor Collective. My hands were shaking so badly I had to dial twice. A cheerful receptionist answered. Hi, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. This is Penelope Bennett, Eric Hansen's wife. He forgot to send me his hotel information, and I need to reach him. Could you tell me where the team is staying in Milan? There was a pause, not a long one, but it was heavy. Milan, the receptionist repeated, her voice laced with confusion. Oh, I don't think so. Let me check. I heard furious typing. She came back on the line. her professional cheeriness sounding forced. Right. The strategy summit. Of course, I don't have the hotel details, but I will be sure to have him call you immediately. Mrs. Bennet. Thank you, I said, and hung up. She had slipped. The confusion was real. He wasn't in Milan. That night, I didn't sleep. I went into his home office. We have a family phone plan. I logged into the account. I pulled up the call and data logs. Eric's phone was active, roaming. The carrier registered its location. It wasn't Milan. It was pinging off towers all along the Amalfi Coast. He was lying. It wasn't a mistake or a miscommunication. It was a complete, fabricated narrative. The next day, he sent me a picture. Ugh, this view is all I get to see. I wish I was home. It was a photo of the Seattle skyline from a high-rise conference room, gray and drizzly. My stomach turned to ice. I had that photo. I scrolled back through my own camera roll. I took it myself, over 6 months ago, when I visited him at his old office on a rainy afternoon. He was feeding me old pictures, curated lies to maintain the illusion. I didn't cry, not then. I felt a strange, cold clarity settle over me, the kind of focus I get right before a major project launch when everything is on fire. I went next door. My neighbor, Naomi Clark, is an ER nurse who works the night shift. She's also a recent divorcee. She was watering her dead-looking patio plants, a mug of coffee in her hand at 5 p.m. I told her everything: the Positano charge, the receptionist's slip, the fake Seattle photo. She listened, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she took a long drink of her coffee. Okay, she said. So you know. Now, what are you going to do? I'm going to call him, I said, my voice rising. I'm going to call him and Tessa, and I'm going to, and say what Naomi cut me off. Her voice firm but kind. You'll yell. He'll lie. He'll say the charge was a mistake, that the receptionist is an idiot, that he sent the wrong photo. He'll call you crazy, and by the time he gets home, he'll have a story so tight you'll start to doubt yourself. If you go at him now, Penelope, all you have is emotion. You need proof. You're a project manager, right? Manage this. Build a case. Build a case. I went home and opened my laptop. I created a new, password-protected Excel file. I named it Risk Eric. I created columns: date, time, his stated location, his actual location, communication, evidence. I became a detective in my own marriage. For the next 12 days, I was meticulous. I logged every text. I tracked every credit card charge that popped up. Dinner for 2 at Zas Restaurant. 2 tickets to the Villa Simbrone Gardens. A charge from a small jewelry shop in Ravello. I pulled data from our shared cloud account, finding Uber receipts that confirmed the resort locations, and then Tessa made a mistake. She thinks her Instagram account is private. It's not. A friend of a friend follows her. I had that friend send me screenshots. On day 9, she posted a story. It was a close-up of a bright orange cocktail, her manicured fingers gripping the glass. The caption, 14 days of no sleep is starting to look good on us. But she wasn't careful. In the background, out of focus, was a small, ornate wall clock, and reflected in the glass of the clock face, you could just make out the gold-lettered logo of the Hotel Santa Caterina on the Amalfi Coast. I screenshotted the screenshot. I saved the image file to a new folder on my desktop. I named it Proof. While cleaning his office, searching for anything else, I found it. Tucked inside a stack of old design magazines was a manila envelope. Inside was a single printed email. It was a confirmation of incorporation for a new company, Northwind Studio LLC, registered in Delaware. The sole managing member listed Eric Hansen. A chill went through me. This was something else. This wasn't just a trip. This was a plan. I scanned the document and added it to my proof folder, tagging it as Risk Unknown. The wife he left would have been on a plane to Italy. She would have been making hysterical, tear-filled calls to his mother. She would have imploded. But I wasn't that person anymore. I spent the last few days of his trip becoming a ghost. I collected. I saved it all. I cross-referenced. I printed every bank statement, every email, every screenshot. I compiled a 94-page PDF. I put it on a thumb drive and gave it to Naomi. If anything happens to my files, I told her, this is the master copy. Don't let me talk myself out of it. Then, on the last day, I found the final piece. I was sorting through old health insurance statements for our fertility treatment prep. We had been on a shared company plan for a year when Blue Harbor was just a startup, and Tessa was on it too. An old benefit summary email from 2 years ago was in a shared folder. It listed routine claims, and I saw her name, Tessa Moreno, a recurring claim for a prescription, a routine checkup at a women's health clinic. It was nothing. It was a normal, boring piece of medical history. But in my new, cold, methodical mind, it wasn't nothing. It was a seed. It was a vulnerability. It was the perfect, untraceable weapon. I didn't need to know what she was tested for. I just needed to plant the idea. So when he walked in today, smelling of her perfume and the Italian sun, I was ready. I wasn't the wife he'd left behind. I was the project manager for his destruction. Eric scrambles backward, shoving his chair away from the kitchen island. The legs shriek against the hardwood floor. "What the hell are you talking about?" he says. But his hand is already snatching his phone from the counter. His thumb swipes frantically across the screen. I can see his recent calls list from here. Tessa, Tessa, Tessa. You're talking crazy. Penny, just crazy. He's not looking at me. He's looking at his phone. His face a mask of primal fear. I just think you should know. I say, my voice still quiet. I pick up his plate, the one with the half-eaten sandwich, and walk it to the sink. Cascade Health downtown does rapid testing. They close at 5 o'clock. If you want to get checked, you should probably go today. That's when he explodes. I don't need to get checked, he yells, his voice cracking. Nothing happened. Jesus. Penelope, what is wrong with you? We are colleagues. That's it. He's pacing now, a tight, 3-step loop between the refrigerator and the stove. He's rubbing his face, but his eyes keep darting back to his phone. How did you even know she went to a clinic, he demands. The question hangs in the air, heavy and fatal. He hears it the same time I do. His body goes completely still. He has just admitted it. He has just confirmed that she did go to a clinic. His denial and his question just canceled each other out. His eyes meet mine. There is no bravado left, only pure, undiluted panic. He starts, but nothing follows. He doesn't have a script for this. He had a script for how was the trip. He did not have a script for this. I'm going to get checked, he mutters, his voice thick. Just to be safe. Just to prove to you that you're being insane. He lunges for the entryway. He grabs his jacket but misses the hook, and it falls to the floor. He leaves it. He fumbles for his keys on the small table by the door. They clatter onto the tile, and he scoops them up, his movements jerky and uncoordinated. He wrenches the door open, and a blast of cold December air fills the kitchen. Then he's gone. The door slams shut, rattling the frame. I stand alone in the kitchen. The silence is absolute. I look down at my hand, the one that was gripping the counter. It's shaking, not with fear, not with sadness, with adrenaline. I walk back to the island and sit down. I open my laptop, the one I'd been pretending to read emails on. I type in my password. The desktop opens. I double-click the folder named Proof. 94 files. The Excel spreadsheet, the screenshots, the bank statements, the PDF of the Northwind Studio Incorporation. I stare at the digital monument to my husband's betrayal. A small, tight, unfamiliar smile touches my lips. It's a bitter, cold feeling. This is the moment I know, without any doubt, that the soft, hopeful Penny who cried over fertility charts and believed in FaceTime promises is gone. I am someone else now. Someone who just sent her husband running to an STD clinic with a lie. I close the laptop. I wash his plate and my coffee mug. I wipe down the counters. I wait. He returns 3 hours later. The sun is setting, and the house is dark. He walks into the kitchen and flips on the light, his face pale and drawn under the harsh fluorescent bulbs. He throws a single folded piece of paper onto the counter. It's a receipt and a lab form from Cascade Health. There, he snaps. Are you happy? Negative. All of it. Negative. You're sick. Penelope. You know that. You're playing some kind of sick, twisted game. He's full of bluster. The relief making him angry. He's trying to reclaim the power, to paint me as the villain. I look at the paper but don't touch it. There's no illness. Eric, I say calmly. He blinks. What I just showed you, I know. There was never any illness. Tessa didn't test positive for anything. I have no idea if she even went to a clinic. He stares at me, the confusion on his face warring with the anger. You lied to me. No, I say, standing up. I asked you a question. I asked what you knew. And your reaction told me everything I needed to know. If you had done nothing wrong, you would have laughed. You would have been confused. You would not have been terrified. You wouldn't have run out of the house. The color drains from his face again. He understands. He sees the trap. But only after it has sprung. Penny, listen. He switches tactics. The anger deflates, replaced by a desperate, placating tone. He reaches for my hand. I pull it away. Just listen to me. It wasn't like that. You're right. I was scared, but only because I knew how it would look. Tessa, she's just a friend. She's having a hard time. Her boyfriend left her. She was a mess. The trip was a client requirement. We had to go. It wasn't a choice. It was just work. We're just close colleagues. You know that. It's the old narrative. The one he's been feeding me for months. The one I used to believe. I don't say anything. I just turn my laptop around to face him. I open one file. It's the screenshot of Tessa's Instagram story, the cocktail, the clock, the logo of the Hotel Santa Catarina. Then I open another file, a credit card statement, the charge from the same hotel, for €2,400, was booked on his card. You told me Blue Harbor was paying for a standard conference hotel in Milan. I say, his eyes are glued to the screen. That was a client upgrade. They moved us. I was going to tell you. Were you... I opened a third file. It's a screenshot of his smartwatch messages, synced to the cloud. He forgot to delete them from the source. A message from him to Tessa, sent at 2:15 in the morning. Italy time. Can't sleep without you complaining in my DMs. His face goes slack. There is no lie for this. He has no script. He just stares at the screen. The silence stretches, thick and suffocating. I think you should sleep in the guest room for a few days. Eric, I say, my voice flat. We need some time. You need to think. He looks at me, his eyes pleading. Penny, don't do this. Go upstairs. Eric, he deflates. He knows he has no leverage. He lost it the second he ran for the clinic. He turns. A man suddenly looking much older than he did this afternoon, and walks slowly out of the kitchen. I listen to his footsteps on the stairs, the click of the guest room door down the hall. I waited 10 minutes. Then I open a new, encrypted email account. I attach the entire proof folder. I attach the incorporation documents for Northwind Studio. I sent it to myself. I logged out. In my project management software, I have a tag for when a critical phase is complete. I whisper it to myself in the empty, dark kitchen. Stage 1, complete. The fluorescent lights at Viridian Outcomes are an assault. They are too white, too clean, and they make the back of my eyes ache. I left the house while Eric was still shut in the guest room. I don't know if he was sleeping or just pretending. I'm operating on a cold, brittle energy that feels like it could shatter if I move too fast. Adrenaline has been metabolized into a low-grade, electrical hum beneath my skin. My team is in the middle of their morning stand-up, discussing blockers for our new patient intake portal. I am their project manager. My entire career is built on identifying, assessing, and neutralizing risk. I smile. I nod. I ask questions about API integration. My voice sounds normal, reassuring. Inside my head, I am replaying a single, looping video Eric's face when I mentioned the clinic. I've been at my desk for less than half an hour when a chat notification pings. It's Liam Carter, our head of IT. Hey Penny, got a minute? Seeing a weird flag on your account. My blood, which was already humming, turns to ice water. I push my chair back and walk to his desk, tucked in the darkest corner of the open-plan office. He's surrounded by a fortress of monitors, all displaying scrolling lines of code. "What's up, Liam?" "Probably nothing," he says, his eyes fixed on a screen. "Just a routine security flag. Your credentials were used to log in from an unrecognized device 14 days ago. It was a new MacBook Pro. Logged in from outside the firewall. Accessed a few directories. Copied some large files. Then logged out. Does that ring any bells?" 14 days ago? The night Eric left for Milan. "What files?" My voice is tight. Looks like, hold on. His typing is fast and quiet. "Yeah. Looks like the entire project directory for the St. Jude Hospital system. The whole thing. The final proposal deck. The beta rollout timeline. The pricing schedules. Your project." I put my hand on his desk to steady myself. The St. Jude contract is the biggest win in Viridian's history. It's our flagship account. That directory contains our entire 5-year strategic plan, our proprietary algorithms, and our unreleased software. It's the key to our kingdom, the IP address. I say, my voice a strained whisper. "Can you check the IP address of the login?" "Yep. It's That's weird." He frowns. "It's a residential Comcast IP. Portland. The address is 1225 Arbor Lane." He just read me my own address. The floor drops away. It wasn't a hacker. It was Eric. He hadn't used my laptop. The alert was for a new device. He had used his own new MacBook Pro, sitting on our sofa, connected to our home Wi-Fi, and used my credentials. He must have watched me type my password 1,000 times. He waited until he thought I was asleep, and then he systematically stole my company's most valuable data before getting on a plane to Italy. This is not about an affair. This is not about a broken heart. This is about my life, my career. "Liam," I say, and my voice is different. It's cold. "I need you to pull the server transfer logs for that entire session. I need to know exactly where those files went. Penny, if this is a breach, I have to escalate this. This is a red-level event." "I know." I say, "That's why I'm escalating it. I need to know where they went. Did they stay on that laptop, or were they sent out?" He looks at me, sees the look in my eyes, and turns back to his keyboard. The clicks are the only sound I can hear. "Okay, the files were copied to the local machine. Then, yep, an email was sent from a web-based client, outside our protected system. The attachment was a single compressed zip file, sent to an external email address." He swivels the monitor toward me. The recipient address is ehansoncreative@gmail.com. He sent them to himself. I say, the words tasting like ash. I realize the implications instantly. If Viridian finds out their data was compromised, they could lose the St. Jude contract. The company could fold. And I would be the source of the leak. My credentials, my home network, I would be fired. I could be sued. He didn't just risk his own future. He built a gallows for me. The old Penny would have tried to hide it. She would have panicked, tried to mitigate, tried to protect him, and in doing so, implicated herself. I am not the old Penny. Book a meeting with Elliot. I say, right now, get our legal counsel on the line. 10 minutes later, I am in the glass-walled CEO conference room. Elliot Marsh, our CEO, sits across from me, his face already creased with worry. Anne, our in-house lawyer, is on the large video screen, her expression sharp and analytical. I don't tell a story. I will give a report. At 8:40 a.m., Liam Carter identified a Level 1 security breach on my account. The breach occurred 14 days ago. At 10:52 p.m., the IP address originates from my home network. The compromised assets are the complete St. Jude project files. Elliot pales. Your home, Penelope, who I believe the breach was executed by my husband, Eric Hansen. I say clearly, I feel like I'm floating outside my own body. Anne, the lawyer, leans into her camera. Eric Hansen, the creative director at Blue Harbor Collective. Yes, I say. The silence in the room is heavy and cold. Blue Harbor, they were the other finalists for the St. Jude contract. The agency we beat. My God. Elliot breathes, running a hand over his face. They're trying to steal the client. They're using our own data to underbid us and poach them. This is unambiguous theft of trade secrets, Anne says, her voice like flint. We can move on this immediately. Penelope, are you 100% certain it was him? Yes. And as I say it, the final piece of the puzzle, the one I'd labeled Risk Unknown, slams into place. The printed email in the manila envelope, the shell company, but I don't think he's doing it for Blue Harbor. I say, Elliot and Anne just look at me. I found documents 3 days ago. He has incorporated a new private company, a boutique agency. It's called Northwind Studio LLC, registered in Delaware. He is the only managing member. Elliot and Anne stare at each other. The implication is sickening. He isn't just a disloyal employee at a rival firm. He's a new competitor. He's building his own agency, and he's using our stolen data as his foundational client. My mind is racing. I turn to my laptop, which is open on the conference table. Liam is still active on our chat. Liam, I need one more thing. Can you trace that email from E. Hansen Creative? Did he forward it, Liam? One step ahead of you. He sent the zip file to himself. Then, an hour later, he forwarded that same email. A new line of text appears in my chat window. FWD Hospital Deck. Don't forward. To Tessa, Moreno@BlueHarbor.com. He sent it to her. He sent our company's crown jewels to his work wife. They aren't just having an affair. They are business partners. Northwind Studio isn't just his new company, it's their new company. And they built it with my career as collateral. I turn the laptop around and show Elliot and Anne the screen. Elliot reads it, and his expression hardens from fear to a cold, controlled fury. Anne, he says, lock it down. Get everything. I want our external counsel involved by noon. Anne looks at me through the screen. Her eyes are not accusatory. They are assessing. Penelope, thank you for your proactive disclosure. You may have just saved this company. We will handle the legal motions from here, but we will need your full cooperation. We need a detailed, minute-by-minute timeline of everything you know. I can provide that. I say, my voice steady. I've already started it. The meeting ends. I walk back to my desk. The office is bright and normal. People are laughing at the coffee machine. They have no idea that the ground just shifted beneath them. Eric thought this was about a 14-day trip. He thought this was about sex and lies. He thought the worst thing that could happen was a painful divorce. He's a creative director. He thinks in terms of narratives and feelings. He has no idea. He didn't just betray a wife. He stole from a project manager. He stole from my project, on my watch, from my network, and he left a digital trail of receipts. This isn't about our marriage anymore. This is about my future. And this, I realize, gripping my mouse, this is the real leverage. Eric is a creature of habit. He showers every morning at 6:15 and every night at 9:30. While the water is running in the master bath, I've moved my things into the second guest room. Down the hall from him, I walk back into our kitchen. He's still relegated to the guest room, but his phone is charging on the counter, right where he always leaves it. His password is his birthday, 8 years of marriage, and he still thinks he's complex. I pick up the phone. My fingers are steady. I open his text to Tessa. Her name is just T. I type, meet me at Driftwood Bar tomorrow night. 7. We need to clear the air. She wants to meet. I hit send. Then I deleted the sent message from his phone. I go back to my room, pick up my own phone, and send a second text to the same number. This is Penelope Bennett, Eric's wife. I think we should at least talk like adults. 7 p.m. tomorrow. Driftwood. If you don't show, you're letting him tell your side of the story. I have just set a meeting, invited both parties, and made each of them think the other one is the problem. The Driftwood Bar is dark, smells of stale beer and fried oysters, and is almost empty on a Wednesday night. I arrive at 6:45 and take a booth in the back, facing the door. Tessa walks in at exactly 7. She's not in her usual flashy work attire. She's wearing dark jeans, expensive boots, and a structured blazer. She's trying to look serious, in control. Her eyes scan the dark room, and when she sees me, her shoulders tighten. She was expecting a confrontation. Maybe. But not this. Not me. Sitting calmly with a glass of water. She was expecting a sobbing wife. She found a project manager. She slides into the booth opposite me. She doesn't say hello. "Where is he?" she asks. Her voice clipped. "He'll be here," I say. "He thinks you called this meeting." Her eyes narrow. She understands, just a second too late, that she's walked into a trap. "What is this?" "This is a conversation," I say, as adults, right on cue. The bar door opens again. Eric walks in. He's wearing his relaxed blazer, the one he thinks makes him look like a creative genius. He spots Tessa first, and a look of relief floods his face. He starts to smile, walking toward our booth. Then he sees me. The smile freezes and breaks. He stops, dead, 5 feet from the table. The blood drains from his face, a rerun of the performance in my kitchen. He looks from me to Tessa and back to me. "Penny, what are you doing, Tessa? What is this?" "Sit down." "Eric," I say. He does. He slides in next to Tessa, creating an awkward, visible gap between them. He's clutching the strap of his messenger bag like a life preserver. Sweat is already shining on his forehead. "This isn't necessary," he says, trying for a tone of authority and failing. "Whatever you two have been talking about." "We haven't been talking," I interrupt. "We've been waiting for you. Now, we're going to talk. Here are the rules." I reach into my bag and place a small black USB drive on the table. It's blank. It's a prop. But they don't know that. Tonight, I ask the questions. You both answer. Truthfully, if I catch either of you in a lie, I tap the USB drive, goes to my company's lawyers, the police, and a few key people in our social circle. This file contains everything: the emails, the bank statements, the IP logs, the whole Northwind plan. Eric flinches at the name. Tessa's eyes widen. She looks at Eric, her first real crack in composure. "We clear?" I ask. Eric just stares at the USB drive. Tessa nods, a tiny, jerky motion. "Good." I lean back. "So, Tessa, let's start with you. How long have you been sleeping with my husband?" Eric starts. "Penelope, that's not... I wasn't asking you." "Eric." Tessa looks at Eric, then at me. She's a deer in headlights. We're colleagues. You're colleagues who spent 14 days in a suite at the Santa Catarina. Try again." Tessa's composure breaks. "He told me you were separated." Eric visibly slumps. "Tessa, don't. He told me you had been separated for almost a year," she says, her voice rising, talking directly to me now. "He said you were emotionally unstable and refused to sign the papers. He said you were living in the same house, but in different rooms. He said your marriage was over." Ah, the classic narrative, the crazy, unstable wife. "Separated," I say, nodding. I pull out my phone. I slide it across the table, open to my photo gallery. "Is that why we went to my parents' 40th anniversary dinner 2 months ago?" I swipe. "And this hiking trip to Mount Hood. That was August. We look pretty unstable. Don't we?" I swipe again. "And this text? From him, 10 days before he left for Italy. Can't wait to come home to you. You're my anchor." Tessa reads the text. Her face, which had been pale with anger, flushes a deep, painful red. She turns to Eric. "You told me she was you," said Tessa. "You're not understanding the context." Eric sputters, holding up his hands. "I was trying to protect you from the drama. It's complicated." "It's not complicated." "Eric," I say, "it's simple. You lied to her. You lied to me. The only difference is what you were trying to get from each of us." Tessa is breathing hard. She gets it. She's not the soulmate who rescued him from a bad marriage. She's just the affair. The banal, stupid, predictable affair. "So all of it was a lie," she whispers, her eyes locked on Eric. "No, of course not," Eric says, his voice desperate. He's losing her. He's losing control. "Tessa, what about the plan? What about Northwind? That's real. Us. That's real. And there it is. The slip. The one I was waiting for. Tessa recoils. The plan. You mean the plan where we were supposed to be partners? The one you built using that hospital deck? Eric freezes. He realizes what he's just admitted. He's just confirmed the existence of Northwind Studio and the theft of the hospital deck. All in one sentence. In front of a witness. My phone is on the table, right next to the prop USB drive. Its screen is dark, but the red recording icon has been glowing silently for the past 10 minutes. That's an interesting point. Tessa, I say, my voice calm. Let's talk about the Northwind plan. He promised you would be partners. He said we would build it together, she says, her voice thick with fury. He said after he handled the divorce, after he got free, we would be equal partners. We'd use the hospital account as our first client, and we'd be set. And did he ever show you the incorporation documents, I ask? A simple, clarifying question. The paperwork from Delaware. Eric's eyes are wide. Penny, stop. This is business. This is not about, did he, Tessa? No. She says, no. I asked him. He said it wasn't the right time. He said it was complicated with the lawyers. He said he just put his name on it temporarily, to get it started. I see. I say, I slide my phone back toward me. So he used my company's data to start a new firm. He used you to help him do it. And he put his name and only his name on the final product. He was never going to make you a partner. Tessa, he was just using you to help him leave me. Tessa stands up. Her chair scrapes loudly on the floor. She looks at Eric with a kind of clear, cold hatred I recognize. It's the look of a woman who just realized she was the tool, not the prize. You didn't just cheat on your wife, she says, her voice shaking. You cheated on your partner. She grabs her purse and storms out of the bar, slamming the door behind her. Eric slumps in the booth. He looks defeated, exhausted. He looks at me, a man with no allies left. Penny, he whispers, please. I stop the recording on my phone. I pick up the prop USB drive and drop it back into my purse. I stand up. He looks at me, expecting I don't know what. Absolution, a fight. I just look down at him. That, I say quietly, is only the fallout from half the truth. I leave him sitting alone in the booth, with the bill. The next phase of my project required allies. Not emotional support, but strategic allies. I was not going to be the weeping, hysterical victim. I was going to be the calm, credible source of information. The narrative had to be controlled, and it had to be mine. On Saturday morning, I drove to my parents' house. I had a single manila folder on the passenger seat. It did not contain the data from Viridian. That was a different war, one I wasn't ready to share. This folder was simpler. It held the travel itinerary Eric had forwarded me, the fake one for Milan, alongside the credit card statements, showing 14 days of charges in Positano and Amalfi. It held the screenshots of Tessa's Instagram stories, and it held the pool photo. I sat at their kitchen table, the one I'd done my homework at for 18 years. My mother, Linda Bennett, poured me coffee, her face already tight with the kind of ambient anxiety she always carried. You look exhausted. Penny, she said, is Eric working you too hard? Are the treatments wearing you out? I hadn't told them we'd paused the fertility treatments months ago. I'm leaving Eric, I said, my mother's hand, holding the coffee pot. Froze. She set it down with a heavy thud. What? No. Penelope, no. You two you're the stable ones. It's just stress. You can work through it. My father, Charles, lowered his newspaper. He didn't say anything. He just watched me. He's having an affair, I said, my voice as flat and level as the table. Are you sure? My mother whispered, her hand fluttering to her throat. Sometimes men are just foolish. I'm sure. I opened the folder. I didn't shove the photos at her. I simply placed the credit card statement on the table. This is the bill for his strategy retreat in Milan. My mother scanned it. La Sirenuse Ravello Penelope. This is the Amalfi Coast. Exactly. And this, I slid the pool photograph across the table, is his work colleague, Tessa Moreno. Linda picked up the photo. Her breathing stopped. She stared at the image of her son-in-law. the man she adored, with his face buried in another woman's neck. The silence in the kitchen stretched. Then my mother's face, which had been pale with shock, turned a deep, mottled red. She slammed her open hand on the table. The coffee cups jumped. "That snake," she hissed, her voice vibrating with a fury I hadn't heard in years. "After everything, after we helped with the down payment, I am going to call him. I am going to call that woman. No." My voice was sharp, and it stopped her. My father, who had been silent, folded his newspaper with meticulous, sharp creases. He placed it on the table. He hadn't looked at the photos. He didn't need to. "Penelope," he said, his voice low and steady, "what do you want me to do?" That was the question, not, "What happened?" Not, "Are you okay?" But, "What is the plan?" "I need you both to do one thing," I said, looking from my father back to my mother's furious face. "Nothing. You will not call him. You will not text him. You will not send him a single angry email. You will not, under any circumstances, call Diane and Paul. But he deserves it." My mother started. "He deserves to be held accountable." I cut her off. "But if you attack him, you give him power. He gets to be the victim. He gets to tell everyone he's being harassed by his crazy, hysterical mother-in-law. You will rob him of that narrative. I am handling this my way. He will not be the victim. He is the liability. I need your word." My father nodded once. "You have it." My mother looked at me, her anger battling with her confusion. She was seeing a daughter she didn't recognize. Finally, she deflated. "You have it. Penny." That evening, I went to his parents' house. I knew Eric had already been there. He had to deploy his own narrative before I could deploy mine. The atmosphere at Diane and Paul Hansen's home was thick with unspoken things. Eric was there, looking pale and martyred. Diane, his mother, gave me a tight, brittle hug. "Penelope, we were so worried. Eric told us you've been well, that you've been struggling." I sat on their sofa. "Struggling with what, exactly?" "Well, with the pressure from your job," she said, smoothing her skirt. She was reciting a script. "He said you've been cold, distant, that you've put your career ahead of your marriage." The cold, career-driven wife narrative. He'd chosen his defense. Paul, his father, just looked at the floor, his face a mask of disappointment. He wasn't buying it. "Diane," I said, "I know you believe that marriage always has two sides, so I'd like to show you his—" Eric, from across the room, said, "Penny, don't. This is not the place." "Then where is the place?" "Eric," I asked, "your parents' home seems like exactly the place to discuss the family you're destroying." I took out my phone. I didn't show them the credit card bills. I didn't show them the text messages. I just showed Diane the pool photograph. She took the phone. She held it close to her face. Paul leaned in. I watched her fracture. Her posture, so upright and defensive, just collapsed. She made a small, choking sound. Then she looked up, past me, at her son. "Oh, Eric," she whispered, and the tears that came were not of sadness, but of a deep, familiar shame. "You stupid, stupid boy. You're just like your Uncle Robert. You're exactly like him." Eric flinched, a deep, visceral reaction. "Mom, that's not fair. This is different." "Different," she cried, her voice breaking. "How is it different? You find a good woman, a good, strong, smart woman, and you do this. You humiliate her. You humiliate me. You bring this into our family, just like he did." He had no answer. He had walked in with a narrative about a cold wife, and I had just replaced it with a family pattern of infidelity. He couldn't defend himself against that. He wasn't just a husband making a mistake. He was another failed Hansen man. Paul stood up. "I think you should go." "Eric, just go." Eric looked at his father. Betrayed. He left. Diane was still crying into her hands. I quietly retrieved my phone and let myself out. The final stage was our friends. We had a joint circle, 4 couples who were inseparable. Derek and Alina were hosting a casual get-together at their apartment. Eric showed up. I showed up. The tension was immediate. We stood on opposite sides of their living room, and the entire group was forced to pivot between us. Their conversations strained. Finally, Derek, who had no tolerance for pretense, muted the music. "Okay," he said. "What the hell is going on? This is unbearable. You two aren't speaking. What happened?" The room went silent. Eric stepped forward, his face set in a pained, reasonable expression. "Derek, man, this is private. We're just going through some things. We don't need to get into the details." "I'll get into them," I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. "We're getting a divorce." A collective gasp. Alina put her hand over her mouth. "Penny," Eric warned, his voice low. "Why?" Alina asked, her eyes wide. "It's complicated," Eric said quickly. "Is it?" Derek asked, looking at Eric. "Is it complicated? Or is there a third person?" Eric's eyes darted around the room. He was trapped. It's not what you think. It was a mistake. I didn't say a word. I just unlocked my phone and held up the pool photo. I didn't pass it around. I just held it up in the middle of the room. The silence was absolute. It was heavy and awful. "Oh my God," Alina whispered. "Is that Tessa?" Eric's face was white. He was staring at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. "You're smearing me," he hissed, his voice shaking with rage. "You're dragging me through the mud in front of everyone. You're enjoying this." I slid my phone back into my pocket. I looked at him, and for the first time, I felt nothing. No pain, no anger, just resolution. I didn't have to say a word. "Eric," I said, "I just answered their question. The truth is the smear. I don't have to add anything to it." He had no response. He grabbed his jacket, shoved past a stunned Derek, and slammed out of the apartment. The party was over. Later that night, the group chat fractured. Private texts started coming in. "I'm so sorry. We're on your side. Whatever you need." Eric had built his life on his image. The charming creative, the devoted husband, the good son. In 48 hours, I had taken a match to every pillar. He wasn't the victim of a cold wife. He was the villain in his mother's family history. He wasn't the hero of our social circle. He was just a cliché. He was losing the narrative, and for the first time, I knew he was truly afraid of me. Naomi called me the day after the disaster at Derek and Alina's. "So, you blew up the social circle," she said. No preamble. It was necessary, I said, packing a box with Eric's expensive sneakers. He was still in the guest room, but his things were migrating to the garage. Good. Now for the real part. My cousin, Caleb. He's a forensic accountant. He works on high-conflict divorces. He can find money if it's been hidden in a shoebox under the floorboards. I don't think Eric is that smart. I said, "You'd be surprised," she replied. "He'll meet you." But Penny Caleb's not a therapist. He's a surgeon. He will open everything up, and you have to be ready for what's inside. I met Caleb Owens in his sterile, quiet office downtown. He was a small, precise man in a perfectly ironed shirt. He didn't offer me coffee. He just motioned for me to sit. "Naomi says you're divorcing," he said, his voice flat. "Yes, my husband had an affair. He's been lying for months. I don't care about the affair," Caleb said, opening a blank notepad. "Lying for months is an emotional problem. I solve financial problems. Are there financial problems?" "He started a shell company," I said, "Northwind Studio. He flew his mistress to Italy on what I think was company money." Caleb wrote down the name. "Okay, that's a start. I need access. Everything. Bank statements, joint and personal, credit cards, mortgage documents, tax returns, brokerage accounts, the last 4 years. 4 years' affairs are the symptom. Mrs. Bennett, the plan is the disease. Plans take time." He had me sign an authorization. "I'll call you when I have a map," he said. 3 days later, he called. I sat in the same hard chair in his office. This time, there was a thick, 3-ring binder on the desk between us. "You were right," he said. "He's not smart. He's arrogant. That makes him sloppy." He opened the binder. The first page was a summary of our joint accounts. I saw the usual charges. mortgage, groceries, and then I saw them. A series of transfers, $5,000, $10,000. Another five, all marked as consulting fees. He was paying his own shell company. I whispered, horrified. From our joint savings. He was, Caleb said. But that's just him moving money from his left pocket to his right. This is where it gets interesting. He turned the page. It was a credit card statement, a business platinum card, one I had never seen before. When did he get this? 18 months ago, Caleb said. He opened it using the family's tax ID. It's a joint business liability. You are as responsible for this debt as he is. My blood went cold. I scanned the charges, and there it was. Flight PDX to FCO. Hotel Santa Catarina. Zas Restaurant. Ravello Jewelers. La Cyrenus Bar. The entire 14-day trip, the strategy session he'd claimed was paid for by Blue Harbor, it was all here. Tens of thousands of dollars. He didn't just go to Amalfi with her, I said, my voice shaking. He paid for the entire romantic vacation. He paid for her jewelry. And he put it on a corporate card in my name. He classified it as Startup Costs Investor Relations, Caleb said, his voice devoid of emotion. He was funding his affair, and he was writing it off as a business expense, leaving you to shoulder half the debt. But that's not the signature item. He turned the page again. It was a loan document. From our mortgage lender, a home equity line of credit, $100,000, Caleb said, tapping the number. Taken out 7 months ago. No, I said, shaking my head. That's not possible. We never took out a HELOC. We talked about it for a kitchen remodel, but we decided against it. I never signed anything. You did, he said. He pointed to the last page. There was Eric's looping, arrogant signature, and right below it was mine, Penelope Bennett. Except it wasn't. My hand flew to my mouth. It was a perfect copy. Almost. But the loop on my P was too round. The cross on my T was too low. It was my signature. But it was dead. It's a forgery, I whispered. It's a digital insertion. Caleb corrected. A high-quality scan pasted into the document. Look at the metadata. The document was signed via DocuSign. My mind flashed. The household email account. The one we used for bills and bank alerts. The one I never checked. Because he managed the finances. He had just sent the DocuSign request to that account. He had opened it. He had uploaded a scan of my signature he must have lifted from our tax returns, and he had signed for me. Click. Done. He had stolen $100,000 of our home's equity while I was probably in the next room managing a project timeline. Where did it go? I asked. My voice was hollow. Caleb turned to a new page. It was a flowchart. My project manager brain appreciated the clarity, even as the contents made me want to vomit. Arrow 1, $100,000 from the HELOC account. Arrow 2, transferred in full, same day, to Northwind Studio LLC, business checking. Arrow 3, $70,000 transferred from Northwind to a new account, a bank I'd never heard of. Eric Hansen, private savings. The last arrow pointed to a series of text boxes, structured withdrawals. Caleb said, $5,000 in cash, every week, for the last 6 months. It's gone. Mrs. Bennett, he's been systematically liquidating your home equity and turning it into untraceable cash. I sat back, the binder a physical weight on my lap. The room was silent. I finally understood. This wasn't a midlife crisis. This wasn't a man who fell for a younger colleague. This was a 2-year plan. He didn't just wake up and decide to cheat. He had been planning his exit for at least 24 months. He built a company. He secured funding by forging my name on our house. He financed his affair by putting it on a joint card. He was draining our shared life to build his new one. My mind, the project manager, saw the timeline clearly. While I was worrying about fertility treatments and being a good wife, he was executing a long-term financial extraction. So what was his endgame, Caleb asked. Though he already knew, he confesses to the affair. He plays the tortured, guilty man. He tells you, Penny, you keep the house. I don't want anything. He looks like a martyr, And he leaves. I finish the thought, my voice flat. And I'm left with a house that has a massive, secret lien on it. He's left me with the asset and all the debt. He walks away with $70,000 in cash, a new company, and a new girlfriend, all funded by me. Exactly, Caleb said. A wave of something cold and sharp washed through me. It wasn't sadness, it was rage, a pure, structural rage. So what do? We could go to the district attorney, Caleb said. This is bank fraud, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. With the Viridian data theft, he's looking at significant prison time. I thought about Eric in a courtroom, in a cell. The idea brought me no satisfaction, only mess. Or, Caleb continued, we take this binder, we make it perfect, we attach it to your divorce petition. This isn't a negotiation. Mrs. Bennett, this is a demand. He doesn't get 50%. He gets 100% of the debt he created. He gets nothing from the house. He gets nothing from the retirement funds. You take everything he didn't steal, and he keeps the hole he dug. He will sign it, because the alternative is prison. He closed the binder. The thud was final. You have to decide if you want justice, or if you want to win. They're not always the same thing. I stood up. I picked up the binder. It was the heaviest thing I'd ever held. I want to win, I said. I walked out of his office. The betrayal wasn't about sex. It wasn't even about love. It was about time. He had stolen years from me. First, by pretending to be a husband, and second, by actively robbing me while he did it. I named the new phase in my head. Stage 2 money and crime, and for the first time, I felt a tremor of fear. Not of him. I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of how calm I felt. I was afraid of how much I was starting to enjoy the meticulous, patient, and ruthless work of tearing his plan apart, piece by piece. I met Monica Reyes on Tuesday. Her office was on the 30th floor, a corner suite that looked down on the rest of Portland. She wasn't the warm, maternal lawyer you see on television. She was sharp, dressed in a severe black suit, and she radiated an energy that was less about empathy and more about overwhelming force. She had the binder from Caleb and the proof folder from my laptop, already open on her desk when I walked in. She didn't waste time. He picked the wrong person to defraud. Penelope. It was the first time I'd heard someone call it what it was, not an affair. Defraud. I've seen this before, she continued, tapping a page from Caleb's report. The arrogant husband, the creative type who thinks finance is boring, so no one will check his math. But this, she flipped a page. This is a full-service combo meal. You have adultery, which is emotionally devastating but legally boring, but you also have embezzlement of marital assets, wire fraud via the HELOC, and aggravated identity theft for the forgery. She leaned forward. And then there's the Viridian situation. Corporate espionage. He didn't just risk your marriage. He actively jeopardized your career to build his new life. If you want, we can pivot this entire thing from a domestic dispute to a criminal referral. The U.S. Attorney's Office takes bank fraud very seriously. I looked out the window, at the city below. The idea of Eric in handcuffs made me feel nauseous, exhausted. I don't want him in jail, I said, my voice quiet. I want him gone. I want it to be fair. Monica smiled, a thin, sharp expression. Fair is a word children use. We're not aiming for fair. We're aiming for a total agreement. We don't go for 50-50. We go for what's right. You keep the house. You keep your retirement accounts untouched. He assumes 100% of the HELOC debt, the business credit card, and any other liabilities associated with Northwind. In exchange, we don't forward Caleb's binder to the district attorney. He doesn't get fair. He gets to stay out of prison. While Monica began drafting the petition, the other front of the war was already moving. Viridian's legal counsel, on behalf of Elliot, sent a formal, scathing letter to the CEO of Blue Harbor Collective. It included the server logs, the IP address, the exact timestamp of the breach, and a copy of the email Eric had sent to Tessa. It was a clear, undeniable demand for an explanation as to why their creative director was in possession of Viridian's most valuable trade secrets. The fallout was immediate. I received a call from a woman named Kelly Hart, the head of HR at Blue Harbor. Her voice was strained, overly professional. She was inviting me, as a courtesy, to provide a statement for their internal investigation. I walked into Eric's workplace. The office was all exposed brick, bright primary colors, and glass-walled conference rooms, an open-plan cathedral of creative self-importance. Kelly Hart's office was the only one with a solid door. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, and looked completely exhausted. "Mrs. Bennett," she began, "thank you for coming in. As you know, we are investigating a serious data security matter involving your husband and Tessa Moreno." "I know," I said. "I was the one who reported the breach to my own company." Her eyebrows shot up. That, apparently, was not in Eric's report. "I'm not here to discuss my marriage," I said, my voice as level and calm as if I were in a project kickoff. "I'm here as a Viridian employee. On this date, at this time, my work laptop credentials were used from my home IP address to access and copy the St. Jude project files. Those files were then emailed to Eric Hansen. An hour later, he forwarded them to Tessa Moreno." Kelly was taking notes, her pen flying. "And the Amalfi trip, was that, to your knowledge, a company-sanctioned event?" "He told me it was a mandatory strategy session," I said. "He also told me he was using the trip to meet with potential investors for a private company he was founding, Northwind Studio. He mentioned charging expenses to a client account. I didn't realize until I said it that Tessa must have already given them the proof. I found out later that after our meeting at the Driftwood Bar, Tessa had gone straight to HR. She wasn't just a scorned lover, she was an employee implicated in corporate espionage and fraud. She handed Kelly Hart her entire Slack history with Eric, including the one message that sealed his fate: "Just charge the Ravello suite to the hospital budget. They'll never even check. He hadn't just stolen from me, he had defrauded his own clients." I knew the investigation was over when my phone rang that night. It was Eric. He wasn't in the guest room. I heard traffic in the background. His voice was a ragged whisper, terrified. "Penny, what did you do? What did you do?" "What happened? Eric." "They locked me out." He choked out. "My keycard is deactivated. My email is gone. Kelly called me. They put me on administrative leave. Administrative leave. Penny, they're going to fire me. This is my career. You ruined me." "I just told them the truth," I said, and for the first time, I felt the ice around my heart crack, not with sadness, but with a cold sense of justice. It seems Tessa did, too. I hung up the phone. The first real consequence, the one that hit his ego, had landed. The next morning, Monica emailed me the draft. It was a work of art. Petition for dissolution of marriage at fault. It listed everything, in cold legal precision. Count 1 adultery. Count 2 financial fraud. Citing the forged HELOC. Count 3 misappropriation of marital assets. Citing the Northwind transfers. Count 4 willful endangerment of spouse's livelihood. Citing the Viridian data theft. "This is ready," Monica wrote. "I'm sending it to his new lawyer, a man named Grant Powell. Let's see if he wants to go to trial." As I was staring at the petition, a new email notification popped up. It was from Tessa Moreno. I opened it. The subject line was simple. "He lied to me too." The body of the email was empty, save for one attachment. It was a PDF, a founder's agreement for Northwind Studio, and stapled to it was a copy of a wire transfer receipt from Tessa's personal bank account. For $25,000, she had paid him. She had paid for her stake in the company. I scrolled to the signature page of the agreement. There was Eric's name, bold and clear, and the space for the second partner. It was blank. She wasn't his partner. She wasn't even his mistress. She was just his first, defrauded investor. I forwarded the email to Monica without a word. My phone rang less than 60 seconds later. It was Monica. Her voice was no longer calm. It was energizing. It was the voice of a predator that had just seen a wounded target. "Okay, Penelope," she said. "This is it. This changes the game. You're not just a betrayed wife. You're the lead plaintiff in a multi-victim fraud case. Tessa is now our star witness. He didn't just lie to you. He's running a pattern. So, this is the last question you have to answer before we send this to his lawyer. How much do you want him to lose?" Grant Powell, Eric's new lawyer, didn't email. He called Monica directly. His voice was smooth, cultured, the kind of voice designed to diffuse tension. He wanted to sit down like reasonable adults. "Going public in court just hurts everyone. Monica," he said, his tone dripping with collegial empathy. "We all lose. Let's find a path through this in mediation." Monica agreed. Her call to me immediately after was, as always, blunt. "He's bringing smiles and a handshake. Penelope, we're bringing the binder. Don't mistake his reasonableness for weakness. It's a tactic to see our cards. We'll show him exactly one." The night before the mediation, Eric came to the house. I was in the living room, which was now stacked with banker's boxes, sorting the last of the financial documents into labeled folders. The doorbell rang, and my heart gave a single, hard jolt. I hadn't seen him since he'd been put on administrative leave. He looked wrecked. The Amalfi tan was gone, replaced by a sick, gray pallor. He hadn't shaved in days. The arrogant, creative energy was gone, replaced by a hollow-eyed, desperate exhaustion. He stood in the entryway of his own home like a stranger, looking at the familiar walls, the empty spaces where his pictures used to hang. "Penny," he started, his voice rough. "This is insane. A mediator, lawyers. This isn't us." I didn't say anything. I just put another bank statement into a folder labeled HELOC. "Look, I know I made mistakes," he said. Taking a step into the room, he was trying to act. This was his final performance, the regretful husband. "Horrible, unforgivable mistakes. I know that." He ran his hands through his unwashed hair. "The pressure at work was eating me alive, and this thing with Tessa, I don't know. Penny. She made me feel alive. I just wanted to feel something, anything. I never, ever meant to hurt you." He let the silence hang, waiting for me to absorb his pain, to comfort him, to take responsibility for his feelings. The old Penny would have. I stopped sorting. I looked up, my hands flat on the stack of papers. "Of all those mistakes, Eric," I asked, my voice flat, "the lying, the affair, the forgery, the data theft, in all of that planning, did you ever, even for one single minute, stop to think about what would happen if I found out?" He just stared at me, his mouth opened slightly. He had no answer. He had never planned for failure. He had only planned for his escape. The mediation office was aggressively neutral. Beige walls, beige carpet, bad abstract art. The mahogany table was polished to a mirror shine, reflecting the tense faces. It was me and Monica on one side, Grant Powell and Eric on the other. A retired judge, the mediator, sat at the head, smiling faintly, urging a productive dialogue. Grant Powell started. He was all smooth reason and sad empathy. "Eric is heartbroken about how this has ended," he said, gesturing to Eric, who was dutifully staring at his hands. "He wants to do the right thing. He loved Penelope for 8 years. Out of respect for that time, he is prepared to offer a standard 50-50 split of all marital assets, including the house. He, of course, denies any and all allegations of financial misconduct. He sees those as separate, unrelated business matters." Monica smiled. It was not a nice smile. She reached into her heavy leather briefcase and pulled out Caleb's binder. It was at least 6 inches thick. She placed it on the polished table with a heavy, definitive thud. The sound echoed in the quiet room. "Then he'll be interested in this," Monica said, her voice conversational. She flipped open the binder. Exhibit A, the $100,000 HELOC application, dated April 4th, with Penelope's forged signature, Grant's smile flickered. Eric went rigid. Monica turned a page. Exhibit B. The DocuSign server logs, showing the signature was executed from Eric's personal laptop at his home IP address at 10:32 p.m. While my client was verifiably at a work dinner, she turned another page. Exhibit C. The wire transfer of those funds, in full, to the Northwind Studio LLC business checking account, an entity not listed as a marital asset. She turned one last, heavy page. And Exhibit D. The summary of the Viridian Outcomes internal investigation regarding the theft of the St. Jude Hospital files. This is the part, she added, looking across the table first at Grant, then at Eric, that we have not yet forwarded to the district attorney. Grant Powell's professional smile was gone. Eric started to talk, his voice cracking, high-pitched. That's not... It was an administrative error. I didn't understand the financial laws. I was just trying to build something for us, for our future. He tried to separate the two. The affair was a mistake, a personal failure. I've admitted that. But this is just business. You can't mix them. The mediator started to say something, a placating noise about finding common ground, but I spoke first. It was the first time I had spoken. My voice was low, and the room went silent. You charged the Amalfi trip to the business card. Eric. He looked at me, shocked. The platinum card you opened in both our names. I saw the charges, the Hotel Santa Caterina, the jewelry store in Ravello, dinner for two at Zass. You paid for your 14-day affair with our marital debt. And then, I leaned forward just slightly. You sent a message to Tessa, which I have. You said, and I quote, just charge this to the hospital. They'll never know. You weren't just cheating on me. You were defrauding your clients. This is blackmail, Eric suddenly yelled, shoving his chair back so hard it nearly toppled. He was losing it. Grant put a hand on his arm, but Eric shook it off, his face purple. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You're trying to ruin me. Fine. You want to play? I'll tell Viridian you were in on it, that you gave me the files. It was a pathetic, desperate bluff. I didn't even look at Monica. I looked right at the man I used to love. You can't, I said simply, because the first thing I did when I discovered the breach was self-report it to my CEO and legal team. I have the email. The timestamp is 1 hour after I found the IP log. I already built the firewall. Eric, you're the only one on the outside. His face crumpled. He had nothing. No narrative, no leverage, no escape route. The mediator, looking exhausted, cleared his throat. Ms. Reyes, what is your client's proposal? Monica looked at her notes, though she didn't need to. It's not a proposal. It's the terms of his surrender. Penelope gets the house, free and clear. She gets her entire retirement account. She gets her liquid assets. Eric assumes 100% of the HELOC debt, 100% of the platinum card debt, and all other liabilities associated with Northwind Studio. He gets his personal belongings and his car. That's the deal. Grant started to sputter. That's unconscionable. That's punitive. Monica stood up. She snapped her briefcase shut. The sound was like a gunshot in the beige room. She looked past the lawyer, her eyes locking on Eric. You have 48 hours to accept an agreement that keeps you free. After 48 hours, we file this petition as is, and we send a courtesy copy of this binder to the U.S. Attorney and the CEO of Blue Harbor. There will be no second chances. I stood up with her. I looked at Eric, the man who had planned for 2 years to rob me, and I felt nothing but the cold, sharp click of a project milestone being met. Stage 3, cut the cord. The 48-hour deadline ended at 10 a.m. on a Thursday. Grant Powell had arranged the final meeting. It was not in a neutral mediation office. It was on Eric's territory, the main conference room at Blue Harbor Collective. He thought it was a power play. He thought it would be just him, his lawyer, Monica, and me. He was wrong. When Monica and I walked in, Kelly Hart, the head of HR, was already seated at the far end of the long glass table, and in a chair directly opposite Eric's, facing the door, sat Tessa Moreno. She was not the vibrant, flirty woman from the Instagram stories. She was pale, dressed in a severe gray suit, and her eyes were cold and exhausted. She looked at me once, a quick sharp nod of mutual understanding, and then fixed her stare on the empty chair Eric would soon occupy. Eric and Grant Powell walked in 2 minutes later. Eric was trying to project confidence, wearing his best creative genius blazer, his hair perfectly styled. He saw Kelly and his step faltered. He saw Tessa, and he stopped dead. "What is she doing here?" he demanded, looking at his lawyer. "She was invited," Kelly Hart said, her voice flat. "As a material party to this investigation. Please sit down." Eric sat, his face blotchy and red. Grant looked like he'd swallowed a wasp. Kelly Hart didn't waste time. She opened a folder. "This meeting is to finalize the results of Blue Harbor's internal investigation. We have found, conclusively, that over the last 18 months, you, Eric, have used significant company time and resources to build a competing private entity, Northwind Studio. You have falsified timesheets. You have billed clients for personal travel expenses, specifically a 14-day trip to the Amalfi Coast, and you have compromised this company by introducing stolen to proprietary data from Viridian Outcomes onto our servers. It was a corporate execution. Therefore," Kelly continued, "your employment is terminated, effective immediately. We will be clawing back your last 2 quarterly bonuses, and we reserve the right to forward our findings to the proper authorities." Eric just stared at her, his mouth open. Monica spoke next, her voice calm and clear, as if she were discussing the weather. "And here is the total force agreement for the dissolution of the marriage." She slid a single, thick document across the table to Grant Powell, and a second copy to Eric. "The terms are non-negotiable. Penelope retains the house, free and clear. She retains 100% of her retirement accounts and 100% of the joint marital retirement accounts. Eric assumes 100% of the $100,000 HELOC debt. He assumes 100% of the $42,000 corporate platinum card debt. He assumes all financial liabilities associated with Northwind Studio. In exchange," Monica looked at Eric, "my client and her employer, Viridian Outcomes, will not proactively pursue criminal charges." Grant Powell was whispering frantically into Eric's ear. Eric wasn't listening. He was staring at the paper, his face vibrating with a child's tantrum-like rage. "No," he said, his voice quiet. "Eric," Grant hissed. "No." Eric slammed his hands on the table, rattling the water glasses. "This is insane. This is punitive. It's unjust. You're all against me. You're trying to destroy me." He stood up, his chair scraping back. He looked from me, to Monica, to Kelly, and then he turned to the one person he thought he could still manipulate. "Tessa," he said, his voice suddenly soft, pleading. "Tessa, look at me. This is them, not us. This is just paper. What about our dream Northwind? What we talked about? We can still do this. Just tell them. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding." Tessa looked at him for a long, silent moment. I could see the final flicker of her own hope die. She hadn't been his partner. She'd been his first mark. She didn't speak. She just reached into her purse, pulled out her phone, and pressed a button. The room filled with the sound of my voice, tinny and recorded. "Did he ever show you the incorporation documents?" And then, Eric's voice, the recording from the Driftwood bar. "It wasn't the right time. He said it was complicated with the lawyers. He said he just put his name on it temporarily, to get it started." Tessa fast-forwarded. "Now," Eric's voice again, this time laughing. The sound was monstrous in the sterile room. "Just charge this to the hospital. They'll never know. They don't even check the line items." The recording stopped. The silence in the room was absolute. Grant Powell had his eyes closed. Kelly Hart looked like she was going to be sick. Monica Reyes just smiled, that thin, sharp smile. "That," Monica said quietly, "is witness number 2, who is prepared to sign an affidavit detailing your wire fraud and conspiracy. If you do not sign this divorce agreement today..." "Eric," That recording becomes Exhibit A for the U.S. Attorney. Kelly Hart spoke, her voice shaking with rage. This is the end. Eric, if this goes public, you don't just take yourself down. You take Blue Harbor's reputation down. You take Northwind down. You take Ms. Moreno down. This agreement is the last chance you have to bury this in divorce papers instead of on the front page of the news. Eric collapsed. It wasn't a slow deflation. It was a total structural failure. The anger, the arrogance, the charm, it all evaporated, leaving a hollowed-out, terrified man. He sank back into his chair. He looked at Monica, his voice a pathetic whisper. If I sign this, you guarantee you'll stop. I guarantee, Monica said, her words precise, that as long as you adhere to every single financial obligation in this document, my client and Viridian will find no benefit in pursuing further action. You will be free to attempt to save what is left of your career, in silence. He stared at the paper. He knew he was beaten. He picked up the pen, but before he could, I spoke. It was the last thing I had to do, the last item on my project plan. Eric, he flinched, looking up at me. His eyes were dead. I just have one question, the real one. I leaned forward. When you booked those first-class tickets to Amalfi, when you were packing your linen shirts and her perfume, did you ever stop? Did you ever, for one single minute, pause and imagine what would happen if your wife, the project manager who lives, eats, and breathes risk assessment found out? Did you ever plan for that contingency? He looked at me, and in that second, he finally, truly understood. He saw it. He saw me for 14 days. He saw the spreadsheet, the file folders, the research. He realized that while he was living his fantasy, I was back home, building his cage. He knew, in that instant, that he hadn't lost today. He had lost the second he stepped on that plane. His hand was shaking. He signed the first page. He signed the second page. He signed the third page. Each scratch of the pen was a cord being cut. Kelly Hart held out her hand. Your key card, your company phone. Eric, moving like an automaton, placed them on the table. A security guard I hadn't noticed was now standing by the open conference room door. I stood up. Monica gathered our papers. I didn't look at him again. I just turned and walked out of the room. I walked through the bright, noisy office of Blue Harbor. I walked into the elevator. As the doors closed, I looked down at my left hand. I twisted the diamond ring, the one he'd put on my finger 8 years ago. I pulled it off. It was warm from my skin. I didn't throw it. I didn't drop it. I just opened my coat pocket and dropped it inside. It was an asset that had been liquidated. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. The main glass doors slid open, and a blast of cold, clean December air hit my face. The battle was over, not because I had forgiven, but because I had made sure the truth, every single piece of it, had collected its price in full. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. So please drop a comment below. Let's chat and share our thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to Zoe Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it extra support by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.